So,
Hi, Ricky.
is that
Nice
your-
to meet you.
Is that your last
Yeah.
name? So is your last name, right?
Linda, nice to meet you.
Ibis.
You know, trustee, there's son, right?
Michael. Steve.
Dara? Nice to meet you.
Executive Assistant to the President and the Board of Trustees, Joy Ponticello. That's your official title.
The big boss.
And the big boss, yes, he's the big boss.
Let us know when you're ready. I'll start with the recording. You ready? Thank you, everyone. As always, no decisions were made in executive session. The next item on the workshop agenda is a report from the Finance and Facilities Committee chaired by Stephen Caswell. Chair Caswell.
All right, thank you. So the Finance Committee met on September 9th, and there was several items for discussion. First, we had Adam Ruthven speak to the committee about a bid for the early childhood feasibility study, which will take a look to merge the lab nursery school with the daycare. The purpose of the feasibility study is to investigate the potential for enhancing and increasing the capacity of early childhood and school-age programs to serve the needs of Dutchess Community College's community of students, faculty, staff, and residents in the DCC service area. The feasibility study would enable the college to devise childcare solutions that attract and retain talented and diverse student parents, faculty, staff, as well as support the employment initiatives of county residents. An RFP was put out to solicit proposals. There were 6 proposals received. The proposals were then reviewed by a committee. The committee ranked the proposals based on their demonstrated understanding of the work qualifications of the firm and key personnel and the fee. 3 firms best met the specifications and were interviewed. And ultimately, the committee recommended awarding the early childhood expansion study to Ashley McGraw Architects. They had the most comprehensive proposal with extensive experience and similar early childhood development projects, with several being SUNY-based projects. And the funding is provided by an early childhood expansion grant and the DCC Foundation. So I'll have a resolution for that during the regular session, or during the board meeting. Second, we reviewed the 2025 capital projects. The committee reviewed 3 projects for 2025 that will be brought forward during the board meeting tonight. The first is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, as well as technology replacement and upgrades for a total of $400,000. That is half funded by New York State and half funded by the capital chargeback funds that we collect. The second project is the Hudson Hall interior reconfigurations, Phase 2. This is for a total of $3.7 million, and that's funded half by New York State and half by Dutchess County. And the third capital project is repairs to the president's residence for a total of $150,000, and again, half by New York State and half for Dutchess County. The third topic here was the committee discussed and reviewed a proposal from Ad Astra for an add-on package that will assist the college in being far more efficient when it comes to increasing course load and build-out schedules. This service will provide better analytics for the enrollment team, scheduling optimization, and provide detailed reports and analytics. And then our committee received several informational updates on enrollment, the security plan that we'll review a little bit later in the workshop, as well as the new policies and revised policies, and the organizational meeting that also will occur later tonight. So with that
Anybody have any
concludes
questions for
my
Chairman
report.
Caswell? Thank you for presenting. That was a lot of actually information because I was in the meeting with you. So,
Well, yeah.
next item on the agenda then is the educational presentation for tonight. Chief Tompkins.
Yes.
stand in one spot. So this is just a brief PowerPoint. Some of this information, obviously members of the board already know, having been on the board for some time. So this is just showing, the first slide here is showing past presentations that have been made to the board, past plans that have been put out there for peace officer or armed responses on campus. So if we go back pre-COVID, there was a Stafford and Associates study that was paid for by the college. And again, that was pre-COVID, before many things changed. And that was looking at a full 16 sworn officer department. That was revised multiple times, obviously, again, as COVID changed enrollment, as COVID changed the world in general. There were revisions to pare down that sworn capacity of peace officers on campus. So you see revision 1 and revision, well, it was revision 3 actually came out in 2022. So looking at this, what we have now is currently we have allocated but not necessarily filled. Myself as Chief of Campus Safety, we have a lieutenant/investigator who does all the Title IX and campus investigations of any crimes or even Clery violations that may not be criminal but might be college relevant. We have a vacant sergeant position. We have peace officer positions that are vacant. They were filled at various times under the prior head of security, but they all have been vacated and not backfilled. So currently we have a senior campus guard. We have then a mix of campus dispatchers and campus guards, which are Dutchess County CSEA civil service employees. And then we're supplemented by contract guards, which is currently provided by Allied Security. Primary goal in this day and age now is what can we do as far as an armed response to an active threat. Current levels, as I just went through, we have no peace officers on campus. We have no ability to respond to an armed response to an active threat on campus. There were patrols on campus in years prior. They went away in around 2016, 2017. It used to be contracted with the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department. It was called an extra duty assignment, where uniformed police officers patrolled the campus, varying dates, varying times, so that a schedule was never set. So that way a person wouldn't know that they're only here from noon to 4 on Wednesdays. They changed it up. That went away in that time period, basically because it fell out of fashion because there was an arrest made on campus. So there was a town of Poughkeepsie officer doing a patrol on campus, located a subject with an active arrest warrant that was put out to us at the time. I was working at the town of Poughkeepsie, and we were told this person had an active arrest warrant. That person was located on campus, and an arrest was effected in the cafeteria. The optics of that were negative among the campus community, and so that program was ended. And since then, there has been no armed personnel on campus in any presence whatsoever, whether they were campus employees or police officers. So there are multiple ways to approach this issue of not having any armed capabilities on campus. One of them is we could relatively quickly and relatively easily go back to that model. We could contract with the town of Poughkeepsie or the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office and go back to having those officers or deputies work on a per diem, per hour basis on behalf of the college, put that out. And I say we could do that relatively quickly because we have used them in the spring semester. We used them for a couple of our lectures. We had town police up here for some of the lectures given the current political environment and the lectures that we had going on. So again, we could go back to that rotating scenario, which is what was there before. There's also an opportunity. The Dutchess County Sheriff's Office has the largest school resource officer program in Dutchess County. They have several dozen SROs. There is an opportunity for an SRO model where an officer is assigned or a deputy is assigned to be the SRO. Many of today's students here at college know the SRO model. I have my SRO certification from the police department. So that's not anything out of the ordinary for our students. In this day and age, most schools have SROs and students are familiar with those SROs. That would be something we would have to work out with an MOA. Most of the school districts, if they have a deputy on campus, they have an MOA that pays for that deputy, so that salary benefits package is paid for by the school district. It's also relevant because as the population of under 18 grows on campus, New York State did something that again transpired during the revisions of that first slide. they did what's called raise the age. During COVID, during bail reform, they did a raise the age movement where it used to be if you were 16 or older, you were criminally held responsible as an adult. That is now 18. So anybody under 18 on campus is a juvenile. So that is a different set of rules, a different set of juvenile law. So that's something that juvenile detectives and SROs are trained more in depth to handle. So if you have, I know, for example, we have a lot of 17-year-olds in the dorm, and sometimes that becomes an issue when we have anything, a dispute or something minor in the dorm. We have to ask, are they 17 or are they 18? Because if they're 17, they are a juvenile under New York state law now. So they are not treated as an adult. So that's a relevant distinction. So the peace officer model, if we were to go with that, one of the fastest ways to accomplish that, in the past there was a test given and there was a goal to have a civil service test with full-time peace officers. If you were to hire retired police officers, they would automatically meet the criteria of a peace officer because the police officer in the police academy is a higher threshold and a higher level of training than peace officer. So a faster way to accomplish that would be to hire retired police officers to be peace officers on campus because we would not have to front that academy training, that field training, that, to train up a police officer is generally 12 months. It wouldn't be very different with a peace officer. They have to go to an academy, they have to actually come out and work and be trained. If you hire a retired police officer, they already meet those criteria. It would actually be somewhat of a downgrade in their certification from police officer to peace officer. We would still have to implement about ballpark 300 policies. So the board, I don't know how many of you want to react to that being 300 policies, but you need several policies if we are going to have our own police department and our own peace officers. You're going to have a use of force policy, you're going to have different action policies, you're going to have different arrest policies. We also are limited in what we can do here because we do not have holding cells. We do not have a police department building. We also, given the juvenile population, you need double of everything. So you need juvenile holding and you need adult holding. So we are limited in what we could do here as far as actual arrest or processing. We could still have peace officers to have an armed response, but we couldn't immediately start doing arrests, for example, tomorrow. All of these could also be worked in a hybrid model. So you have current staff that meet the peace officer requirements. Myself and retired Detective Dodona, the campus investigator, meet that. We could work in conjunction with the SRO model from the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office if we could come to an MOA with them. That would provide more than one person on campus at any given time that's armed, so that if there were, heaven forbid, an event, you'd have multiple people that could respond and not just one. Provides more coverage. It also limits, if we were to operate in partnership with the Sheriff's Office, it limits what the college has to be responsible for. For example, the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office is an accredited agency. If we were to operate under their umbrella, adopting their policies, it would save a lot of policy passing and adoption that would have to happen here. This is just an example of what some other colleges or some other campuses nearby do. As we mentioned, there's obviously the need right now for meeting Clery Title IX investigations for the investigator. Westchester Community College relies on Westchester County Police. So they have one full-time officer via MOA, so he's there 40 hours a week, more or less, Monday through Friday, day shift. And then they have another officer that's there for an additional 20 hours. So they get a total of 60 hours armed coverage on campus by having an MOA with Westchester County Police. Other than that, all coverage on the campus is security guards, and then they have a person on staff to handle their Title IX investigations. Sullivan and Columbia County Community Colleges use sheriff's offices for support, so that's how they get armed sheriff's deputies on campus as needed. Ulster Community College has that retired police officer model. So everybody that works at Ulster Community College is a retired police officer that works part-time, and they fill it. The convenient thing that Ulster has is they close the campus at midnight. They don't have a dorm, so they have a little bit easier as far as staffing. They don't need people regarding the dorm. And then obviously, as we know, if it were larger campuses, for example, Long Island, they have full university police departments, similar to SUNY New Paltz, SUNY Oneonta, SUNY Plattsburgh, where those are full-time police departments. There's also an issue with those vacant spots where those peace officers that we had have left and not been backfilled. That's an issue with salaries, and if you hire new peace officers that also meet the criteria for police officers, the reality is they're going to be able to leave and have a high turnover rate. We've already had that turnover rate before I even got here of the peace officers. If you, for example, contract with the sheriff's office or the police department, the turnover rate isn't necessarily our problem. The police departments and the sheriff's office have to deal with the turnover rate. They're going to submit staff to us to cover the shifts that we request. So if we request 20 hours, they're going to have their manpower to move through that. If they have an issue with turnover, that's frankly an issue that they're going to be working with, we're not going to work with. As far as changes in certification, changes with DCC staff, that's a constant issue with us having those policies, having what liability we have, and how much training we have year over year if we have that turnover. Again, with the police departments, if we can adopt, for example, the Dutchess County Sheriff's policies and their accredited New York State policies, that's easier as far as what we're referring to. So, as an overall recommendation, again, the issue is we have no armed response right now. So there is no ability, if there's a threat on campus, we are all going to call 911 and we have nobody that can respond to that. If we are looking for immediate details events, we've already hired the town of Poughkeepsie Police for these off-duty roles. I would say moving forward, the closest agency to align ourselves with is another county agency. The county sheriff's office is another county agency. So that would probably be the easiest alignment we can make. It also ties us tighter to the county. It ties us as far as funding. That's funding that we need. That's funding that if they are looking at other funding, they're not going to cut sheriff's deputies and security on campus. So that alignment is probably the best thing to look for, and it's just a matter of how do we look for it. Do we look for it as extra duty? Do we look at it as a full MOA of an SRO dedicated here? And do we also look at it as, I've been in talks with the undersheriff and the lieutenant that's in charge of the SRO program. Another option is to also put us under the sheriff's office as tactical deputies. So those are part-time deputies that, again, myself and Investigator Donona meet the criteria for that. And we would be under their umbrella, their policies, their rules, and the college wouldn't have to come up with 300 or so rules of peace officers to follow. So a lot of information we went through again, so.
First, Russ, thank you very much. This is something that we intend the Chief of Security to do periodically, is do a top-to-down complete evaluation of where we are, where we're going, and what might make the most sense in terms of resources that we have, and also keeping faculty, staff, and students happy with the process. So I take it you're going to keep working on this before you finalize what your final recommendation is?
I think my final recommendation is right now. I think we should do something tomorrow.
Good.
I mean, that would be my final recommendation.
But pursuing something immediately with the sheriff's
office.
As
far as with the sheriff's office, yes, that's an ongoing process. So yes.
I think it makes, personally, just me, you're going to hear from the rest in a moment, but I think it makes a lot of sense to align with another county organization. We are part of the county in and of itself as well.
And the other thing I forgot to mention as I was running through it, the other benefit as far as the sheriff's office, I mean, some people might wonder why I'm not aligning myself with the department I retired from. It makes more sense with the county sheriffs because they have jurisdiction over Fishkill, they have jurisdiction over the airport, they have jurisdiction over family partnership. Even though there is a police department in Fishkill, there is a police department, obviously, city of Poughkeepsie, a sheriff's deputy as a county agency can handle any one of those sites. So it would be more streamlined if we had an event or even just a investigation of something that took place at the airport, that we could assign to this person under that MOA and they have jurisdiction there. So we don't have to go to another agency, and the town of Poughkeepsie can only cover this campus. The town of Fishkill can only cover the Fishkill campus. A sheriff's deputy has countywide jurisdiction.
Questions or comments? Frank, Dara?
I have a couple questions. If we were to go with the this SRO, the sheriff's department that you're suggesting, can we mandate their training? Can we also mandate their seniority, their experience?
So mostly no. So their training, I guess my question, I'd want to know more about what you mean by training. So an SRO goes to advanced training. An SRO typically isn't a new officer because typically they have to have experience on the street already
Good.
in order to meet the criteria to then put in for SRO training. As far as who is hired here, that's contractual to a certain degree. So if you go, let's say, perfect world, tomorrow we call and we say we'd like to get an SRO, and they say, okay, we're gonna add an SRO to our SRO division, that's gonna go out to their membership, they're gonna be able to bid, they're gonna be able to put in for it, they're gonna do an interview process just like when they interview for detectives or sergeants or traffic officers at departments. So they're gonna have to go through their process, and they might have a rule that you can't put in for SRO until you have 3 years on. So, and I don't know what their rule is, but that's an example. So that would be something that we don't have a lot of control over that because, and we frankly wouldn't want a junior officer, we want somebody that has more experience. So that role is not typically a junior officer. It wouldn't be somebody with 6 months experience on the street. It would be somebody more senior. As far as their training, I guess that would be, what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm thinking of, frankly, crisis intervention.
So every Dutchess County officer from any agency has to go through crisis intervention
Okay,
training.
great.
Implicit bias.
They all have it.
Great, that doesn't mean it works, but okay.
Well, I can't make the training take. All I can do is.
Right, but I mean, it doesn't mean they use it. But my other question would, I guess, DEI, you know? I would
Implicit
want to know.
bias. Implicit
What?
bias. Implicit bias.
Implicit bias, okay.
So implicit bias, they now get in their academy. So the trainers for implicit bias in Dutchess County are City of Poughkeepsie officers. So City of Poughkeepsie does that on a countywide level. So if it's an officer that went through the Dutchess County Academy, they get that in the academy now. I got it. I was a lieutenant when I got it because that's when the trainers were trained in the City of Poughkeepsie, and then they came and gave it to every agency. So like, for example, right now, every officer working in the town of Poughkeepsie has it because the trainers are right in the City of Poughkeepsie. So I think you'd be hard pressed to find officers that don't have that
Okay.
already, because since it is local and they do have trainers local, they send those officers to everybody at the academy. So the only way you might find someone is if you found somebody that lateraled in. For example, New York City can now lateral up to Dutchess County. So if the sheriff's office hired a transfer from New York City, there's a chance of their 125 road deputies that maybe there's 2 that don't have that. But I mean, it's a very small number. And in addition, they wouldn't be able to put in for SRO yet because they'd be junior in the department. But implicit bias is now in the academy and at every agency.
Okay, thank you.
Frank, any questions? Steve? Angela? Gibis?
None.
Linda? Oh, you surprised me. Bobby? No. I take it from the lack of questions that everyone's more or less in agreement with your next steps.
Good.
It sounds like we're going to be doing a hybrid no matter what.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess we are at the limitation of waiting on the sheriff's office. As they said immediately, they don't have enough in their staff. Like if we wanted a SRO tomorrow, they don't have the staff right now for it. So yes, again, getting back to the recommendation, my recommendation would be to pursue that, but my recommendation would also be, what can we do tomorrow? So I would recommend that we start having someone here on a rotating basis, 3 or 4 hours, 4 days a week, and rotate that. So there is that. And I think we could also follow up with them if they would take Investigator Dodona and myself under their umbrella as well. That would allow for other coverage on campus. So if I'm here 8 to 4 and that deputy walks around from 9 to 1, I'm still here till 4 p.m. You still have someone on campus that is armed, and that would be a limited response. I wouldn't be responding to, again, since we're not a full service police agency, I wouldn't be responding to someone in the Pine Grove with marijuana, because there's no reason for me to respond there as an armed response to something minor like that. It would only be for the absolute bad scenario that I would be
So
armed.
it sounds like some negotiations between you and the sheriff and the county will continue.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
More to come.
Yeah, more to come. Thank you. Since we're running a little bit late tonight, sorry. Next item on the agenda is liaison reports. Frank, DCC Foundation.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The Dutchess Community College Foundation did hold their meeting on September the 19th, and our new chair, Lisa Morris, opened the meeting with election of the new officers along with the slate of board members, and did announce a couple of resignations, Betsy Brown coming from the foundation board along with Ray Frieda. A couple of other updates coming from the foundation board. A final strategic plan for the foundation was presented. There are a whole host of events here. I will not name them all. Most of our board members should have received invitations to the lecture series and dinner that will be happening this fall. All of this is also on their website, so I won't reiterate them all, although I will highlight a couple of their upcoming fundraising events of importance, including National Philanthropy Day that the foundation will be participating in on November the 15th. You will receive an email notification about that. The annual holiday craft fair is coming up on November the 30th, and of course save the date for the March 29th gala and the golf tournament on May the 19th. There are a couple of fundraising updates of note. The first is the total raise this year from the spring appeal was $10,967 from 78 donors. Summer appeal, that was $12,570 from 59 donors. And the iWave donor list is now up to 35,000 records. Congratulations to Diane on that. A few grants of note. The Dyson Foundation has awarded us $25,000. New York State Office of Children and Family Services, DCC Care Surviving to Thriving, $9,000. Regional Food Bank, Wakefern Partners in Caring grant of $1,000, and then another small grant of $100 from the Bank of Green. Nice website update, marketing update. We did also receive or did adopt a contract that went to Rising Tide for development. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Frank. Anybody have any questions? And the next item is the DCC Association report, and our next meeting is, I believe, is next Monday, the 30th. But I can say in advance that there is a proposed bylaws change because we expanded the number of students represented on the association to include one from athletics, one from residents, et cetera, because to be more transparent, open with all the governance of the students. And it's left us kind of with an unwieldy and large number of directors, yes. So it's proposed that we drop two. One would be from, we have two right now, so that would go down to one. And the other would be to remove the, I'm sorry, Adam, it's Christina's position. Secretary. So we'll be voting on that next Monday, but that's really about it. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Are we ready to go to the regular meeting? We call the meeting to order. It looks like 7:02, and I'm going to lead us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance myself.
He's earned
I
it.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Ponticello, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Bobby Biersack.
Here.
Mr. Frank Costello.
Present.
Mr. Stephen Castro.
Present.
Ms. Dara Cloud.
Here.
Mr. Michael Dupree.
Here.
Ms. Angela Fleslin.
Present.
Ms. Lisa Gardy. Mr. Ibis Guzman.
Present.
Ms. Evelyn Panici. Ms. Linda Pratt.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and revised?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. The next item is the election of officers. Ms. Pratt, I believe that you have a slate of officers to present for 2024 and 2025.
I do. I sent out the call for nominations on September 17th, and Angela Fleslin has stepped up to be the chair, Michael Dupree the vice chair, and Dara Cloud the secretary. And all ran unopposed. So I guess I'm putting forward.
You're making a motion to nominate
I'm
that slate.
making the motion to nominate.
Second.
There's a second? Any further discussion? Let me just add that it's been a pleasure to be the chair for the last 6 years, and I thank all of you here, as well as board members present, for having the confidence in my ability to do what I've been doing. But I can't wait for it to go over to Angela. And I want to just point out, too, that it's
Supposed to be offended by.
No, I want to just point out that, so when I was appointed, the chair had been chair for 12 to 14 years, and there was a lot of rancor amongst the members because they felt as though they could never advance and try to be the chair. And I can tell you that it's fun to be chair. It's also a lot more work, but it is fun to be chair, and I feel like that it's better to share this experience with other trustees. So Angela's giving me the look of, At any rate, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Is
nays
there
or
a second?
Yeah,
Frank.
second.
Frank.
Second?
Yep, yep.
Sorry.
Any nays or abstentions?
Nice try.
Motion carries unanimously. Angela? Yeah, nice try.
Okay, moving on to the next order of business, which is public comment. We have 4 speakers that signed up today. Dr. Laura Murphy. So just to remind everyone, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. I'm going to keep a timer on my phone. When 30 seconds, when you're at 2.5 minutes, I'm just going to put my hand up to keep everyone in order. If anyone remembers how I run meetings at the legislature, I am very much one who sticks to rules, so.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Laura Murphy, speaking in my capacity as President of Dutchess United Educators regarding Resolution 2025-4, approval of the use of facilities for free speech policy. I've heard from many DO members who are extremely concerned about these proposed restrictions on the free expression of students, faculty, and staff. We're doing research and consulting with DO's affiliates, New York State United Teachers, and the New York State Conference of the American Association of University Professors. Since we only had 2 business days to review this policy, that legal consultation and research is ongoing, but it's already clear that this is a deeply flawed and damaging policy proposal. DO will have more to say about this issue, but in the meantime, I direct your attention to a recent statement by the AAUP, which I cited in my email to the board members this morning for the full, and included the full text. The AAUP, which condemned a wave of hastily enacted, overly restrictive policies imposed by top-down edicts without input from governance bodies, which go beyond reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to impose severe limits on speech and assembly that discourage or shut down freedom of expression. The AAP further states, those who care about higher education and democracy should be alarmed about these policies that severely undermine academic freedom and freedom of speech and expression that are fundamental to higher education and the policies trample on the rights of students, faculty, and staff. They refer to the very limits proposed here: advanced registration for demonstrations of protests, limiting the locations where they can take place, whether amplified sound can be used, forbidding amplified sound. And they write, quote, by acceding to external political pressures and demands for political censorship, instead of encouraging the utmost freedom of discussion, college and university administrations abandon their responsibility for protecting the academic community's central mission of education, research, and service to the broader society and to the public good, end quote. It is also deeply disturbing that, to my knowledge, the board did not consult with the campus community or even notify us that such draconian requirements were under consideration. This lack of consultation is particularly puzzling in light of the board's new development policy, which calls for, quote, collaboration and input that should involve board members, employees, and relevant stakeholders in the policy development process, and states that the board will, quote, draft review policies based on input received. Many questions have been raised by DO members, and I don't have time for them all here, but a few. Why is the board proposing to make DCC a limited public forum, which has a specific legal category that designates speech by certain groups or for discussion of certain subjects? Who would decide which groups, which subjects, and using what criteria? Would passing this policy open up the college to lawsuits for violating students' constitutional rights? Also, when we're trying to get the word out that DCC is a welcoming place to study, why would the board institute a policy that would violate students' basic rights? How would this be consistent with the goals on increasing enrollment and expanding access? Finally, how can we teach our classes, in our classes, about the social justice protest movements that have made our country and world an immeasurably better place if our own institution physically marginalizes and inhibits our ability and our students' ability to engage in protest?
Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
I ask that the board table this resolution and adhere to the policy development policy and seek collaboration with and input from
Dr.
all
Murphy,
members and
thank you.
organizations of the campus community on this critical matter that has profound implications for the academic integrity of DCC and for democracy itself. Thank you.
In the future, I'll give a verbal 30 seconds if perhaps people couldn't see my hand. The next is Michael Adams, and then it will be Raheem So, followed by Maya Chinkin. If you just want to line up in order, that way there won't be any downtime in between people. You can certainly do that.
Good evening. My name is Michael Adams, and I'm here as the Professional Staff Organization Chair. And as many of you know, I was in 8th grade when I first took my public speaking class. And it was also taught by a theater teacher who had a flair for the dramatic. And really, the attention getter is what he always would focus on what we should start with. And my attention getter for this evening is I thought about asking all of us to walk over to the Pine Grove, because what I'm about to say in the next now 2 minutes is about protest, right? But I decided to go to a different route. As I look around this room, the majority of the people in this room are here based on historical protests. I look at the former chair of the Board of Trustees, and I look at the current chair of the Board of Trustees, and your civil rights were granted to you because of protest. But as I said, I am here as the PSO chair, and this board's policies and your implementation of policies are destroying governance on the campus. We were not afforded the opportunity to respond to this. This was not sent to committee. We don't have any understanding of where this is coming from. There has not been a violent protest on this campus in as many years as we have all in this room, at least in the 13 years that I've been here, that it's happened. Why is this necessary? Who is defining protest? Why are we limiting it to one small area? And as I asked earlier today, what is the punishment? And what I don't understand, and this is why today during our PSO meeting, I used the word silence. I am getting the feeling that everything and anything negative is being silenced by the board and at many times senior administration of the college. Dissenting voices help us progress. We hide behind the buzzword of diversity, and we think that that only has to do with ethnicity. Diversity is diverse thoughts and diverse actions, not just ethnicity.
30 seconds.
Thank you. And I wanted to connect this with the fact that I, as the campus governance leader, have to ask permission and tell you what's on my agenda, or what I'm going to say based off of your agenda. You're already limiting our voices by only allowing 3 minutes, by making us speak directly to an agenda item and ask for permission. I recently received campus governance leader training where they talked about how great SUNY Orange is. Their campus governance leader is on their board of trustees. And we hide behind SUNY policies, like we're doing this because it's a SUNY policy, but then we get a last minute agenda, right?
Thank you, Mr. Adams. We appreciate it. Mr. Stowe, welcome as the new SGA president.
Hi, it's nice to be here. To the esteemed Board of Trustees, my name is Raheem Sow, and I am the president of the Student Government Association. I am my second year, third semester at DCC, and I'd like to speak to you about the proposed policy on limiting freedom of speech activities on campus. The proposed policy is an overreach of the Board of Trustees to regulate the right of freedom of speech. The Student Government Association, an organization which represents the will of the students, passed a resolution earlier today to support tabling the passing of this new policy. Under the current policy, SGA already regulates and approves freedom of speech activities across the campus. This policy has been successful over the past couple of years without incident. Student expression of freedom of speech has not resulted in any conflicts, and higher education is supposed to be a bastion for exploring ideas. The board regrettably neglected to consult the affected parties of this policy, the faculty, the staff, and the students. Today, I urge the board to table this resolution to allow for our entire DCC community to collaborate on the creation of a new policy that would represent the wishes of the faculty, staff, and most importantly, the student. I yield the remainder of my time to the chair. Thank you.
Former trustee Chinkin. Trustee emeritus. My
There you go.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. So I was former student trustee as of last school year, and I have a little more insight on what was happening amongst campus, confidentiality-wise, and to my public knowledge. And I understand of the fact that there was things that were happening on campus that brought fear to the Board of Trustees, to Dr. Jordan, but knowing that this policy is taking place, or most likely might take place, which I hope not, it's limiting the First Amendment rights. Most of us here I see tonight are people of color or just coming from different ethnic backgrounds, and as a woman of color myself, the fact that my limited freedom of speech might be taken away on this community college is not permissible in my opinion, and especially amongst my fellow peers in student government, in SG, or amongst the students on campus, and the faculty members here at Dutchess Community College. I would like you to take into consideration to oppose this resolution, to table the resolution as a whole. Especially for those that on a day-to-day basis, they want to spread awareness. They want to protest and say, oh, I want to educate you on this knowledge. Let them, because it can do, sorry, I'm struggling. I guess I'll conclude my discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Concludes our public comment. Is there if anyone, by the way, that spoke or anyone else within the college community would like to email their comments to Joya, feel free to do that. That way they can be included in the record. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting held on August 27th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Chair Gardy is not here for the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. Ms. Cloud, you'll be giving her report. Thank you.
The meeting consisted just of informational updates. We discussed new policies or revised policies, and the use of facilities for free speech policy proposed by SUNY. Scott Schnackenberg provided the committee with an update on the Mishi Supplemental Information Report. The report addressed questions on enrollment management, financial resources and students, and the assessment of administrative units. The report was submitted on schedule. Dr. Jordan spoke to the committee about the most recent GLBA audit findings for fiscal year 2023. A corrective action plan has been submitted, and the college was recently notified that the plan was approved, and the college can continue with its remediation efforts on the GLBA-related findings. The committee was reminded of the date for the annual reorg meeting, which will take place at the September BOT tonight.
Thank you. Moving on to board policies. Chair Guzman.
Board policy. We met on Wednesday, September 11th. We did have some new policies and revised policies to go over. The committee went over several proposed new policies. Support from the campus community was positive with minor suggested edits recommended by various campus community members. In addition to the new policies, the committee intends to bring forward at the September Board of Trustee meeting. The committee is recommending some revisions be made where appropriate to the use of facilities for free speech policy. We did go over promotion and tenure. The committee reviewed the promotion and tenure policy and intends to revisit the policy in October for updates. We also went over the annual reorganization meeting that was to take place today, which already happened. So at this point, I will move forward to our resolutions. I have 4 of them for this evening. The first is Resolution 2025-1. I offer the following resolution and move to its adoption. Whereas to comply with regulations, a policy on the use of fund balance has been written, and whereas the policy committee finds said policy to be appropriate to the needs of the college now, therefore be it resolved that based upon the recommendation of the policy committee and review by the Board of Trustees, The attached policy on use of fund balance, which shall be made part of the official minutes of this meeting, is hereby approved, and be it further resolved that this policy shall be effective immediately. And be it further resolved that the board reconsider this policy again within 5 years or earlier, should it be determined revisions are needed prior to the scheduled review date.
Second.
Perfect. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Next resolution.
I offer 2025-2, whereas to comply with regulations, a policy on racial and other forms of discrimination has been written, and whereas the policy committee finds said policy to be appropriate to the needs of the college, now therefore be it resolved that based upon the recommendations, the policy committee and review of the Board of Trustees, the attached policy on racial and other forms of discrimination, which shall be made part of the official minutes of this meeting, is hereby approved, and be it further resolved that this policy shall be effective immediately. And be it further resolved that the board reconsider this policy again within 5 years or earlier, should it be determined revisions are needed prior to the scheduled review date.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries.
I offer 2025-3, whereas to comply with regulations, an involuntary withdrawal policy has been written, and whereas the policy committee finds said policy to be appropriate to the needs of the college, now therefore be it resolved that based upon the recommendations of the policy committee and review by the Board of Trustees, the attached involuntary withdrawal policy, which shall be made part of the official minutes of this meeting, is hereby approved. And be it further resolved that this policy shall be effective immediately, and be it further resolved that the board reconsider this policy again within 5 years or earlier, should it be determined revisions are needed prior to the scheduled review date.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Pratt, any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries.
At this point, I offer Resolution 2025-4, whereas based upon this review and input from the members of the Board of Trustees, the Policy Committee has determined that the policy on the use of facilities for free speech needs to be revised. Now, therefore, be it resolved that based upon the recommendation of the Policy Committee and review by the Board of Trustees, the revised policy on the use of facilities for free speech, which is attached and shall be made part of the official minutes of this meeting, is hereby approved, and be it further resolved that this policy shall be effective immediately, and be it further resolved that the board reconsider this policy again within 5 years or earlier, should it be determined revisions are needed prior to the scheduled review date.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
Motion to table.
There's no discussion on a motion to table. Is there a second?
Michael,
No. Seeing no second, the motion to table fails. So continuing with discussion, is there any discussion on this resolution?
I'll wait in for a moment. So first, I heard the impassioned comments, and I appreciate every one of them. And you're right, my civil rights do, that I have right now as a gay man, do accrue from protests as well as a lot of hard work politically. That noted, there is I believe a conflation that's being made between free speech, the exercise of free speech on campus, meaning I can walk into a classroom and say, hey, I believe this. That's not what's being regulated, that you can only do that in the Pine Grove. But when there's an organized group, and it's going to have individuals who may protest or may just stand looking nice, whatever they're going to do. But those are the kinds of groups where you can have legally an area in which to require that they gather. You could also require that there be less sound because it's disruptive to other classes. At any rate, the request for this came down from the SUNY system. Someone was right when they were saying it's SUNY, but we're not hiding behind that. The request was made so that we would do this quickly so there wouldn't be a repeat of the kind of incident that happened last spring over in SUNY New Paltz, where actually troopers were called in and arrested kids and took them away. Allowing, allowing groups to actually request to have time, as much time as they want, over in the Grove, which is actually essentially located part of campus near, I think it's a great location myself. But doing that would also allow us to have our security system, our security individuals notified in advance, which makes it then safer for all the students. We almost had a group wanting to do a protest, we'll call it, but we're an activist presentation on campus. They chose not to on their own, not because we put up any restrictions. When we talked to them, it was because they decided that they didn't want to make some of their own members unsafe because they weren't sure what the consequences are. So I'm comfortable moving this forward. I will say that I'm also, if based on what we heard tonight, the policy committee can rethink this process and want to send it back out to get more comment and possibly revise it, but I think we should do something as soon as possible. I'll also note herein that if we're destroying governance, and I apologize, but the actual policy that we are referring to here is for new policies to go through the shared governance, not existing policies. But if that's something that shared governance would like, then that's something that should be undertaken as well. But the actual policy is that it's for new policies that we started out going through that process. So that's all I have to say.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, resolution carries. Moving on to finance and facilities, Chair Caswell, you gave your summary in the workshop, so if you want to move on to your resolutions
All right.
this evening.
So I have a total of 5 resolutions here. The first one is resolution number 2025-5. I offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Resolved that the contract for professional services for the early childhood expansion study be awarded to Ashley McGraw Architects, DPC, Syracuse, New York, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Is there a
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dupree. Any discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Next resolution.
Resolution number 2025-6. I offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Resolved that the following capital project be hereby authorized and approved in the amount indicated below, that being FF&E and technology replacement and upgrades, an estimated total of $400,000, with the state share being $200,000 and the sponsor's share being Dutchess County, through the capital chargeback of $200,000. And be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Dutchess County Legislature for their consideration. Is there a second?
Second. We're all second.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Any discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Next resolution.
Resolution 2025-7. I offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Resolved, it be hereby determined pursuant to the provisions of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 8 NYECL, Section 0101, and its implementing regulations, Part 617 of 6 NYCRR, that this project is a Type 2 action with the meaning of Section 617.5C1 and 2 of 6 NYCRR, and accordingly is of a class of actions which do not have a significant impact on the environment, and no further resolution is required. And be it further resolved that the following capital project is hereby authorized and approved in the amount indicated below. The project is Hudson Hall Interior Reconfigurations Phase 2, estimated total cost of $3,666,000, with the state share being $1,833,000, and the sponsor's share, Dutchess County, being $1,833,000. And be it further resolved that this resolution also be forwarded to Dutchess County Legislature for its consideration. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Biersack. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Next resolution.
All right, Resolution 2025-8. I offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Resolved, it is hereby determined that this project, and I'm going to skip all the
Please.
the formalities that I read in the previous, because it's all the same. But this is a Type 2 action and accordingly is of a class of actions which does not have a significant impact on the environment, and no further review is required. And be it further resolved, the following project is hereby authorized and approved in the amount indicated below. The project name in this case is President's Residence Repairs. Total estimated cost of $150,000, with the state share being $75,000 and the sponsor share being $75,000. And be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Dutchess County Legislature for its consideration.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dupree. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Next resolution.
All right, Resolution 2025-9. I offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Whereas the Ad Astra Smart Scheduling and Planning System are specialized software solutions designed to optimize course scheduling, room utilization, and long-term academic planning, and other benefits for the college. Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the President to enter into a 5-year agreement with the Ad Astra Information Systems, Smart Scheduling and Planning Systems for a total contract value of $267,362.05. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Moving on to the Personnel Committee. We met, discussed personnel matters, as well as had a presentation by Chief Tompkins on the law enforcement proposal that you heard this evening. There's one resolution that the Personnel Committee will bring forward tonight. I will try to get through it without coughing too much. Resolution 10, I offer the following and move its adoption. Whereas the New York State Education Law, Section 6306, specifies that Dutchess Community College shall be governed by a Board of Trustees with 5 members appointed by the local legislative body or board, 4 by the governor, and 1 elected by the student body. The Dutchess Community College Board of Trustees appoints presidents of the college, subject to approval by SUNY's trustees. The Dutchess Community College Board of Trustees may enter into contracts or agreements deemed necessary or appropriate for the effective operation of the college, including but not limited to the employment contract of the president, the responsibility of the authority to conduct the annual performance evaluation of Dutchess Community College president, and to amend the terms of his, her, their contract rests solely with the Dutchess Community College Board of Trustees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dutchess Community College President's performance appraisal, evaluation, and periodic review and terms and conditions of the employment contract will only be influenced by, altered, or amended by negotiations between the President and the Board of Trustees at Dutchess Community College. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries unanimously. Moving on to the report of the student trustee.
Thank you.
Trustee Pearson.
I don't have much to report tonight, but what I do, I'll tell you. So to reiterate from the previous meeting, next Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, at 5:30 p.m., we'll have our Title IX show called Intrusion. This is required for all student leadership, SGA, athletes, RAs, club officers. They all have to attend. It's mandatory. October 27th, 2024 will be our Fall Family Festival, and that will be on the Washington Quad. We have 4 new clubs on campus: Data Science, Dance, Latin American Student Organization, otherwise known as LASSO, and STEM. The BSU will be holding a Black Cultural Night on November 8th. That time and location is to be determined. The SGA Exec Board is now filled at capacity. We now have a president, VP, and treasurer. Our president, Raheem So, business major. Our VP, Keely Hayden, he's also a business major. And first-year student, Jasmine Horton, computer science major, for our treasurer.
That's great that you were able to fill that board. We look forward to working with
Took
you.
some work, but we got to it.
Great. And it's good to see 2 of your e-board members here tonight.
Maya Shinkan, our coordinator of internal affairs, and Raheem, our president.
Yeah. I am going to skip a formal chair report this evening. As I think you probably have heard, I don't think I can get through reading that much more tonight. I look forward to working with everyone over the next year. I am a proud graduate of Dutchess Community College in 2006. I went on to earn my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate after graduating from here. So Dutchess is always where I started, where I am proud of, and I will say, after going on and getting a doctorate, the hardest education that I ever got and what I really learned the most from was my associate's degree. And I just have all the respect in the world for our college, and I'm proud of it, and I look forward to advancing it with all of you. And I look forward to working with the board. As my fellow trustees know, I work full-time, and I don't have as much time during the day as former Chair Dupree had. So the other trustees, I will be looking upon them to take more active roles at community events that I'm unable to make, but I will certainly make as much as I can, and I will be fully apprised of everything, even if I'm not able to be there physically. Dr. Jordan, the report of the president this evening.
So I'll pick up you left off, Madam Chair. Congratulations on your appointment, and I look forward to working closely with you to continue to advance the interests of DCC and this community. I also want to take this opportunity to thank now former Chair Michael Dupree for being my support system in transitioning into this role.
It's been a pleasure.
The best board chair I've ever had.
No.
Still to come.
Right. That's all
But
you,
the
Michael.
best board chair I've had to date.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for your support and collegiality and friendship and all of those things, introducing me to the Hudson Valley and so forth. So I do appreciate you tremendously, as I do every member of this board, but thank you for your service. And I'm glad you are not going anywhere. So I want to point out a few different things. Professor Teresa Burke will be presenting at the SUNY OER Summit on October 17th. The topic or title of her proposal will be Evolution of OER Sustainability at Dutchess Community College. Also, our athletic department has introduced and continues to strengthen its academic oversight program that allows for athletes to work closely with our assistant athletic director and basketball coach, Bob Piano, to ensure their success as college students, first as students, then as athletes. Falcon Fest happened, it's now a couple weeks ago, and saw over 700 students participating in the two-day event. Students were able to connect with clubs and organizations, and as you heard from Trustee Biersack, there are new clubs on campus, and I look forward to getting to know those clubs. Going forward, one of the things I want to do is to identify and recognize some of the unsung heroes on the campus in terms of the work that they do. While a wildly important goal is centered around enrollment and enrollment growth, that might suggest to some that it's all about those forward student-facing departments. But there are a lot of folks in the background who work diligently to make sure that our goals and objectives are achieved. And so this evening, I want to commend our marketing and college communication Communications Group for all of their hard work and support of the efforts of this college in terms of publicity and press and really promoting this institution. We have our new director, Gina, is here this evening, and we look forward to even greater things from her. So I don't want anyone to be jealous at this point. As I said, I will make this a practice going forward at these meetings to try to highlight one of those back office, if you will, or unsung heroes and offices that exist here on the campus. The last thing I want to point out is that the college launched its AI Exploration and Integration Task Force a few weeks ago. That task force is being chaired by P.J. Darcy, who is Department Chair of Mathematics and Computer Science, and our new CIO, who is Deepa Dubal. I look forward to inviting them at some point in the near future to talk about the progress that they're making, but it's an enthusiastic group that is really excited about the possibilities and about working with the college community to identify how we can best integrate AI into our work and practice. So, Madam Chair, that's it for my report.
Thank you. Just for the record, since I've gotten a few looks like I'm typhoid Mary tonight, I promise I don't have COVID. I'm 2.5 weeks into pneumonia, which has been a beast. So reminder, get your flu shots, get your COVID shots, be fully vaccinated this time of year. Is there any other business to come before the board this evening? Okay. Seeing none, our next meeting will be October 22nd. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Get home safe, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So